on behalf of the Riverside Art Museum and the Society of Extraordinary Women. My name is Ofelia Valdez-Yeager, and I'm here as a member of the community and a partner of RAM as the chair of the Reach for the Cheech campaign. Very excited about that. And if you need the subject of tonight's conversation is transformational leadership. The Society of Extraordinary Women starts leadership training for middle school girls through its Ignite Leadership Academy, as does Latino Network with its inaugural leadership conference in June. And this is one of the reasons Nancy Melendez, a member of the group, asked me to welcome you. This evening's speakers will share their stories on transforming learned leadership skills into reality. And moderating this evening's conversation is Paulette Brown-Hinds. Let me tell you a little bit about Paulette, for those of you who don't know already. Dr. Paulette Brown-Hinds is the publisher of Black Voice and founder of the Voice Media Ventures, a strategic media and content creation firm. She was elected to the James Irvine Foundation Board in January of 2018, and that deserves an applause in itself. And she is president-elect of the California News Publishers Association. She currently serves as executive director of the League of California Cities African American Caucus. Her current and previous board service includes the Community Foundation in Lynn, Southern California, California Press Foundation, Inlandia Institute, and Fortune School of Education. She has received numerous journalism awards from the California News Publishers Association, the American Advertising Federation, and the National Newspaper Publishers Association. Dr. Brown-Hinds is often asked to participate in forums on ethnic media for trade and academic organizations, including New America Media, National Newspaper Publishers Association, the Aspen Institute for Communications and Media, and Columbia University's Graduate School of Journalism diversity workshops. She has also published scholarly articles on 20th century Black women writers. She received a bachelor's degree from Cal State University, San Bernardino, and earned her master's and doctorate degrees in English literature with an emphasis in African American literature and culture from the University of California, Riverside, where she currently teaches a course connecting students in media and the arts with the broader community. As a lifelong student of African American literature, culture, and history, she leads Underground Railroad study tours for the Black Voice Foundation, manages a collection of rare antebellum artifacts, and is the founder of Mapping Black California, a geospatial technology community mapping and STEAM initiative identifying the assets of the Golden States of African American community. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in giving a warm welcome to Paulette Brown-Hinds.
How is everyone doing tonight? So I missed the last conversation series. I was at the inaugural event that Shirley hosted, and it was just a wonderful addition to some of the work that's being done here in Riverside around innovation and the arts. I'm so excited to have this as an ongoing series. So events like this don't happen without the support of the community, and I want to first acknowledge some of our sponsors for tonight. Riverside Art Museum, Bourns, I'm not sure Gordon Bourns is here, I know he was at several of the others. Mapping Black California, which is a project that I am part of. Esri, ESRI, we have some of the Esri team here, and we'll hear more about the work that they're doing with the Ignite Leadership Academy in a few minutes. And Southern California Gas Company. So those are our sponsors for the night. So tonight, we have board members from the Society of Extraordinary Women. And if you are here, I know some aren't present, but if you are here, please stand. Nancy Melendez. Nancy here. Dr. Kimberly Bradshaw. There she is. Dr. RoseMarie Hickman. Trina Schneider. I know Trina's here. There she is. Jody DeLeone. She here? There she is. Wanda Roy. And Dr. Alan Cummings. And Thomas Coates. I saw Thomas. There he is. And in just a few minutes, I will introduce our fearless leader, Shirley Coates. But before Shirley comes up, we'd like to have Dr. Harky Dillon come up, and he's going to read a few poems. I'm going to just give you a little information, a little background on Dr. Dillon. Dr. Dillon is an orthopedic and hand surgeon, and he is the founder of the Riverside International Film Festival, which is in its 17th year this year. He is the producer of the critically acclaimed feature film, Beyond Honor, and is the author of 2 books of poetry, Invisible Hands and Misty Darkness. Both of those can be found, if you're interested, on Amazon. And he is on the Board of Advisors of California Baptist University and UCR School of Medicine. He's going to recite 2 poems for us tonight.
This is like actually coming home, because my first book of poetry was launched in the room over there with in collaboration with RAM. And the staff of this place is absolutely amazing. And Drew's been extraordinary in everything that we've collaborated with. And a couple of years ago, we had an evening of poetry, music, and art over here, which was amazing. So this is really, like I said, coming home. Anyways, I have the task of, it's a very pleasant task actually, of reading 2 poems from my first book, Invisible Hands. And usually actually, when I do any reading, I usually start with this, but Shirley and Jody actually suggested I do that, so it was actually worked out pretty well. This poem is called My Daughter. I have 2 actually, so when I started this, thinking about that, the second one said, what about me? I said, you know, it's a singular, but it's a plural, so it's for all the daughters. They don't let anything pass by. Anyways, you know, children are so important to us. This could be my son, but since I have 2 daughters, it's my daughter. I have looked upon and adored this face for all these years. The addition of her life, her energy, her laugh, her silences to mine has forever completed the purpose of my existence. Every moment of togetherness shared is a ray of sunshine to a starving soul. It is the quantum of strength that builds the core to overcome most of what life throws at me. And the second poem was also selected by the ladies, and I was given my marching orders, but I kind of agreed also. This poem, the only thing that I'll just make a little bit clear, because it takes me back to my days in India, in the rural setting where fields are irrigated by the well system, where people dig wells and the water comes out, and there's an interesting little mechanism with the camels or the cows or the oxen going round and round. And you know, they have some bricks over it, they keep it covered so animals don't fall in, people don't fall in. It's kind of fatal when you do that, so they try and protect people. Anyways, so this is called Love. The parched, caked earth cracked in irregular geometric forms, parched and dry, looking to the heavens for relief, crying a little more every day. In this soulless desolation, seemingly insignificant, a circle of bricks covered by corrugated sheets of iron, held down by more bricks. Love passes over as a gentle breeze, easily lifting the metal cover without a noise, exposing the dark, sweet water which rises to the surface, flowing easily, restoring hope and life to the body and soul. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dillon. In introducing Shirley, or having Shirley come up, to say a few words. I was preparing for tonight, and I have this notebook that has quotes at the bottom of the pages. And I was looking at a number of them, and several spoke to me as I thought about the work that the Society of Extraordinary Women and the work that Shirley is involved in here in the region. So I'm going to read 3 of them and then have Shirley come up. The first one is Gandhi. You must be the change you wish to see in the world. Second, Napoleon Hill. If you cannot do great things, do small things in a great way. And the third, every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. Harriet Tubman. Shirley?
Well, how are all of you this evening? Well, I just want to say that I'm so pleased to have all of you here tonight at our quarterly conversation series in this beautiful venue of the Riverside Art Museum. And in this busy city, at this busy time where there's so many things happening and you can barely find parking, I am also so pleased that you have decided to spend this evening with us. I'm honored to stand here before you this evening as we present our 3rd series in 4 conversation series this year. The Society of Extraordinary Women's Conversational Series is a program designed to bring together community leaders, professionals, and technologists across cultures to share ideas and innovations that impact the community and impact the world. This event features top professionals in their fields who come to speak at our themes for a particular quarter. Our overall theme is GIS technology, the arts, education, cultural diversity, and leadership. Some of our past presenters have been the top oceanographer in the world, Dr. Don Wright, the top mechanical engineer in the United States, Ms. Sanders, and a leading Disney Imagineer, Bobby. And some of you know him by his name because we just call him Bobby, but he's a major Imagineer with Disney. And of course, our last series featured Idris Sandhu, who is currently working with Elon Musk in the design of the spacecraft, and actually at age 20 has 2 patents on the current spacecraft that's going up in the near future. So we were very happy. Tonight is no different. We're fortunate to have 3 world-class speakers who are experts in leadership, and that is leadership that drives a community to greatness. Leadership that drives business to unparalleled success. And also leaders that drive individuals to step into their extraordinary selves. The goal of this program is to expose more people to our community, more people in our community to these cutting-edge ideas and benefit in collaboration to achieve more than we can alone. I tell my students often, together we achieve more. And of course, the other point is to bring exposure to our premier program, the Ignite Leadership Academy for Girls. The Ignite Leadership Academy for Girls focuses on leadership development, including social and cyber etiquette, financial literacy, college preparation, and GIS coding and mapping. And someone asks, what is GIS? And you may ask that. And a parent happened to ask our instructor, our GEO mentor, Joseph Marsh, who's in the audience this evening, and he said, well, GIS, and Joseph responded, have you ever heard of your smartphone to locate the nearest coffee shop? Do you wear a fitness tracker? Have you used Google Earth? What's the common element among these useful, fun tools? They're all examples of geotechnologies. Today's maps can make the world a safer place, healthier and smarter. And we chose GIS because this technology impacts every career path, everything in life that you will do will be impacted by GIS technologies. So our students are far ahead of the curve already. The students in the Ignite Leadership Academy are learning how to harness these geotechnologies in their academic and personal lives. With GIS, we can pose questions, derive results using a wide variety of analytical tools to help us understand and compare places, determine how places are related, find the best location and paths, detect and qualify patterns, and even make spatial predictions. We are learning so much thanks to Esri, who provides this technology and allows us to use this platform. Our other activities include art and innovations. In art, we took several of our students to see the Alvin Ailey dancers at the Sagrum in Orange County. Last week, we took students to aviation school at Flabob Airport, where they had their first flying lessons. And we are preparing to go to Washington, D.C. to meet members of Congress and participate in mock Congress. Well, I'm so excited about this program, and I'm pleased to be able to give back. After a career in the corporate world and being a business owner, I can relate to many of these students who have a desire but sometimes lack opportunities or find that opportunities are limited. But just like my parents who taught me, who made me believe I could do anything, I am good enough. And I really believe that. With the support of my parents and of course many extraordinary teachers who helped me and taught me about learning and loving to read. I'm successful today because of the support of my parent and those teachers, and a special school in Mount Pleasant, Texas, in the country, where we had chickens in our backyard, and they had the foresight to start a school where they treated us like we were adults. And at 3 years old, we began to learn another language. We spoke French by the time we were 4. We were reciting Shakespeare and actually doing Shakespearean plays by the time we were 6. And of course, science and the technology that we had, well, we knew it. And so today, I want to do the same things for those girls because we didn't know any better. She talked to us like adults. She taught us that we thought that all children knew Shakespeare. We thought that all children at 5 years old could do fractions. We didn't know any better. And of course, when we talk to our children in a way that exposes them to these cutting-edge technology, their mind just soaks it up. We have a 10-year-old in our class who is just taking over, Joseph knows, just taking over the GIS technology with no problem. Already has developed a community map at age 10. Well, before I end this evening, I want to just share a story with you in our class. We have interactive classes all the time. So in one of our workshops, the students were asked to form a foil in a shape that represented who they were. So many of the students made a heart and said, I'm so giving and I'm so loving, so this represents me. And another student said, I'm a swan because I'm growing. And another one said, I made a basketball because I'm going to be a professional basketball player. And it just went on. And then I walked around to another student who had their head down. And I said, I looked at the table and it was just a flat square. Just a flat square. I mean, it was like a pancake flat. And so I said, well, what does that represent? And she said, that represents me, because I'm nobody, I'm nothing, and I don't know what I'm going to become. I could not believe it. I almost was in tears at the moment that she said that. But of course, the other side of me said, this child is analytical. This child is thinking. Because the average person would say, well, I don't do anything, right? But she knew to fold it in pieces, make it flat. And today, though, that same child is now speaking in public, is now a leader in her high school. She started with us when she was in junior high school, and she's going on to become an engineer. And I could tell you this, she has no problem getting into any college that she wishes to go into. That's the story that I want to share. And we have more young women just like that. And our goal is to help those students achieve and to help them have opportunities that they would not otherwise have. Just like for me, I was fortunate and was able to go into that school in Mount Pleasant, Texas. And so I want to recreate that for the students in our program. And you have a chance to help us as well. You have a chance this evening. When you came in tonight, we have pens that you can purchase to show that you support education, that you support extraordinary women, that you support empowering young girls and women. That's what that E signifies. So my hope is that all of you will take a moment and pick up one of those pens. Or if you wish to donate to this, you know that we don't charge for this event because it's a community event, and we want you to learn about what we're doing. And of course, you're going to learn so much about our speakers tonight, because in our school, we are creating future leaders. And now I want you to hear leaders of today who will be coming up in just a moment. I thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the evening. I got so excited in talking about these students that one of my star students is sitting right here. And we're talking about GIS technology. And she was going to do a presentation along with a group in her class. And unfortunately, because of graduations and other things that were happening, they weren't able to be here. And Kaylee, who was also a little shy, but I want to bring Kaylee up right now and have her show what she did in our GIS program. Kaylee?
Good evening, my name is Kaylee Bradshaw. I am 13 years old and I attend Matthew Gage Middle School here in Riverside, California. My favorite things to do in my free time is surfing, sewing, and skateboarding. I have been surfing for 7 years now, and I attend a YMCA surf camp in the summertime. My interests are swimming and gymnastics. I went swimming because my mom and sister did it for a very long period of time, and it seemed cool. I ended up liking it and have been swimming for 4 years. When I get older, I want to go to college by the beach and pursue my dream career to be a marine biologist. I have always been interested in the ocean and things that have yet to be discovered. Three words to describe me would have to be quirky, funny, and independent. I have my own personality, and I'm not afraid to show it. I wanted to join this class to learn more about leadership and self-confidence. So far, I have learned about reaching your goals and keeping them. I have learned to be a good leader and be confident in my decisions. And finally, I've learned about this amazing program called ArcGIS, which I used to make this presentation. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Okay. Thank you, Kaylee. So tonight, the theme is Community Transformational Leadership. And we have three amazing speakers that will be presenting tonight. And then we'll have a little opportunity to do a little Q&A after all three of you speak. I'm actually looking forward to this. I know two of the speakers quite well. So what I would like to do is I'm going to read the bios for everyone now, and then we'll have you come up in order after, and we'll start with Kim Anthony-Morrow, whose husband I know quite well, fellow publisher. Kim brings more than 25 years of experience in business and community development to her role as founder and CEO of the Urban Philanthropy Network, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is dedicated to providing networking opportunities, education, resources, and support to emerging nonprofit leaders who are committed to serving urban and under-resourced communities. In addition to nonprofit leadership training, technical assistance, and funding development support, UPN also provides one-to-one leadership coaching to emerging nonprofit leaders, something we desperately need here in the region. Glad to hear you're doing that work. Prior to launching UPN, Kim served for more than a decade as the Director of Membership and Small Business Development for the Black Business Association. And she has parlayed her extensive knowledge and experience into the publishing of Urban Business Journal and Urban Philanthropy Magazine, and currently serves as the producer and host of Urban Philanthropy Live, a weekly podcast that highlights individuals and organizations that are making a positive difference in urban and underserved communities. A passionate social enterprise advocate and gifted fundraiser, Kim has sourced more than $10 million in funding for worthy causes and social innovation projects. Looking forward to hearing from you, Kim. And after Kim, we will hear from Ms. Patti Cotton. Patti is the founder and CEO of Cotton Group. She's a sought-after leader and strategist whose background includes more than 25 years of multicultural leadership experience around the globe in the areas of diplomatic relations, philanthropy, public relations, and communications. As a diplomat, she and her spouse engaged with leaders across the world to foster international relations. And as Chief Development Officer for Loma Linda University Medical Center's 5-hospital healthcare system, Patti designed the strategy and built and led a team to the successful completion of multiple campaign initiatives, raising a record $21.3 million within a short window of time. It was, in the estimation of many, an unreachable goal. As an executive consultant and coach, trainer, an international Fortune 500 speaker and author, Patti brings this wealth of experience to her executive consulting clients, to the corporate teams she develops, and to the audiences she effectively engages as a speaker. Through her signature 360-degree leadership brand, Patti works with executives, business owners, and other chief decision makers to engage, elevate, and equip them for greater leadership and outcomes. That's Ms. Patti Cotton. I'm so looking forward to hearing you guys tonight. And rounding it out will be Barry Knight. Barry has committed his life to helping leaders massively impact their world. A man of faith and family, Barry is the founder and CEO of BEK Impact Company, a leadership coaching, training, and speaking company that helps leaders in the public, social, and private sectors achieve greater social outcomes and personal leadership success. As a business leader and minister, Barry has masterfully blended his experience into an electrifying and captivating coaching, training, and speaking style that helps leaders massively impact those they lead and serve. His services have been contracted by Fortune 500 companies, small businesses, county governments, nonprofit and human service agencies, universities, school districts, churches, and motivated individuals to help achieve their goals faster and more effectively. Barry has an impeccable ability to discern the needs of those he serves and delivers life-changing strategies that help individuals and organizations prosper and thrive. Barry Knight. So first we will hear from Kim Anthony-Morrow.
Excellent, thank you. Good evening. Oh, I know you can do better than that. Good evening. What an absolute honor it is for me to even stand before you and share just a little bit about what brought me through the decades of my life and experience into the world of philanthropy and making a difference in my community. But I would be remiss if I did not thank the Society of Extraordinary Women for not only making this experience available, but for the incredible work that you do and that you have done with countless number of young ladies and young gentlemen and through your programs. Once again, Shirley Coates and the Society of Extraordinary Women. Let's give them a round of applause for the incredible work that they do. It is, and I would also be remiss if I did not say something about my walking miracle of a husband who spent 4 months in intensive care, 5 weeks in a coma, lungs collapsed, kidneys shut down, on life support, and yet he sits right here. I am so grateful to have my husband with me. I do what I do because I was raised by my community. I got involved in philanthropy, in leadership, and nonprofit development, helping out because I was raised by my community. You see, I was privileged to have come through the foster care system. Now, typically when someone says something like that, I was brought through the foster care system, it's usually kind of oh, that was a sad beginning, and now here she, she's made it. But I don't see it that way. I saw coming through the foster care system as something that uniquely prepared me for the work that I would be doing today. Let me share just a little story. It is 1971, Christmas Eve, and a four-year-old little girl, terrified, was brought and introduced to this nondescript group home. And the next day, terrified that Santa wouldn't remember where she was. And so, of course, the festivities for Christmas began, and all of the about 7 or 8 other little children were circled around a makeshift fireplace and a Christmas tree, and they began giving out gifts. And one after another, because they had been there, each of the other children were receiving gifts that were wrapped so beautifully and perfectly. But this little girl sat there quietly, trying to keep a upper lip the way her mother said, and that when she told her that one day we will be together, and don't cry. She's sitting there with crocodile tears in her eyes because she was sitting there with nothing. And there was a knock on the door, and in walks a full-figured specimen of a queen woman with a large green garbage bag. And she reaches down into this garbage bag and pulls out a teddy bear and presents it to the little girl. And in that moment, that little girl knew that she was not just remembered by Santa Claus, but God also knew where she was. That little girl was me. And when I grew up, when all of my friends, they wanted to be firemen and they wanted to be policemen and movie stars and singers, I wanted to be Mrs. Florence. I wanted to be the lady that would walk in with the food, or walk in with the scholarship, or walk in with the toys, or walk in with the keys to a home. And so I was raised by people like Mrs. Florence. And I was educated by people who took an extra interest in me. And as I grew throughout my high school years, it was my community who purchased my prom dress and gave me the scholarships and the funding that I needed and the extra that I needed for my education. I ended up working for my community for pretty much most of my adult life. And I was privileged to work with the Black Business Association, and about once a week, people would call saying that they wanted to start their own business. And it was really interesting. Once a week, they would call and say, hey, I want to start my own business. I don't want to make any money, but I want to make a difference in the community. And I didn't quite know what that was, but it reminded me of the people in my own community that wanted to help, that simply wanted to make a difference. And to tell the stories of the people from my community that are out there making the difference, the Miss Florences of the world, I launched Urban Philanthropy, just to be able to provide the resources, the structure, and the support. Many people who do work in our community are doing work in our community because they have been somehow impacted by the tragedies. For instance, I've done quite a bit of work in the violence prevention and intervention arena, and people who work in that arena don't choose to go into that arena just because they've aspired to. They usually have been touched by it. They've lost a loved one. They maybe have been in a gang or have committed violence upon their own community, and they want to give back. So people go into that kind of work because they have the heart to do that kind of work, but they don't always have the structure. They don't always have the resources. They don't know how to. Many people are out there saving our community, and they don't even have the medical insurance. So it became my passion to deliver the capacity building, the structure, and the resources that'll help the people who are out there creating positive change in our community do it in a way that they can not only do well by doing good, but be well by doing good. Transformational leadership is not top-down leadership. There's someone at the top telling other people what to do. Transformational leadership is leadership that inspires others to be a part of the solution. I've always believed that the best way to fix broken communities, the most proficient knowledge in fixing broken communities, can come from the people who live there. And since I've started Urban Philanthropy Institute, 120 people who live in those communities and are out there making the difference that they were born to make, doing well by doing good. I am proud of not only the work that they do for the community, but who they become in doing that work for the community. And on behalf of Urban Philanthropy Institute, I'm grateful for the opportunity to continue to serve. Thank you.
Privilege to follow Ms. Kim Anthony. I once sat in a board meeting and watched her masterfully come up with some strategies for SOEW, as we fondly call it, Society of Extraordinary Women, that made some real change from the get-go. She is a change agent. And I have to say that who follows me also is one, and he probably will not talk much about himself as I know him, but if you haven't read his book, Impactability, Serving as Heaven's Representative to Leave a Legacy, you need to go get that book. So just want to make a plug for my colleagues here because they are amazing. So it's a privilege for me to be sandwiched in between. It is. What I want to talk to you tonight is about transformational leadership, but I want to tell you first that leadership as we know it is dead. Leadership by position, by role, by edict is no longer. And real change is happening at the grassroots level. Now, how do I know that? I've been around long enough to be a grandmother now, and I've watched many changes. In a former life, I was stationed at the UN in Geneva for a long time with my husband, and we were privileged to make a small part of that change. So I was first in a diplomatic role, and then I went into corporate, into civic, and so forth. So I've been around a little bit and watched leadership, grown up in leadership, and been privileged to be a part of it at times. But the models that we have used, because I now work with leaders to help them develop so that they can meet tomorrow more successfully, the models that we have learned and used in the past do not work now. We used to talk about leadership skills. We used to talk about leadership competencies and so forth. That is no longer, those are no longer enough. What is enough is transformational leadership. But what does that really mean? I will unpack that for you for a little bit in a moment. But let me tell you why. The why of transformational leadership is this. It's what we executive coaches call a VUCA world. VUCA is an acronym that stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, which means that what works today will not work tomorrow. So we cannot take a model or a template and place it on a situation because that situation is going to change as fast as you lift it and place it over. What remains constant through all of this chaos is us. It's us at the grassroots level because leadership is no longer a position. It is no longer a role. It's a mindset. So we are all called to become leaders, and it's up to us as to whether we accept that charge or not. What we're seeing in the business world is just a small indication of what needs to happen also in the community, and that is this. For a very long time in leadership, we led with the mind, with the head. We would think strategy, negotiation, how do I deal with conflict? How do I navigate here? What do we do in that capacity? So all that we did to groom the mind for leadership was done with thinking only. And what we left behind was the heart. Now, when you disconnect the mind from the heart, eventually you'll know, if you study psychology, that you will operate from head only, and in doing so, you'll very often go back into fight or flight mode. You won't know it, you'll get used to it. So you'll be used to a chronic hum of stress as you make decisions like you use a crash cart in the hospital. What we leave out when we do that physiologically is the executive brain up in front. And the executive brain up here is where the critical thinking, the reasoning, the creativity, the innovation take place. But we leave all that behind and push ahead saying we're operating, we're doing, and so forth. And we mistake productivity and productivity for effectiveness. We think because we're doing a lot, we're being effective, and those are two very different things. Are you being effective? That's what we want to know. So reconnecting the head and the heart is paramount to leadership today, and here's why. With the new generation, we're seeing a lack of empathy. With the onslaught of technology and all that children have to deal with today, the younger generation in their teens right now is suffering from worse depression sooner than we have ever seen chronicled in the history of written psychology. What comes along with it is a lack of empathy. They're on the screen a lot, so they don't connect. We mistake communication for connection. Again, two very different things. We need to reconnect the heart and the mind to work together. In my work with at-risk youth and with disadvantaged women coming out of abusive situations, I do that. That's my heart love on the side. When I work with them, we often journal, because that reconnects the emotions with the thinking, and we can get some very powerful things. If you will translate that into your day-to-day living, think about building more trust, building more empathy, having positive regard for others. Those are the kinds of things that we can't teach to operate from here. That has to come from here. And for those of you who think that leading from the heart is soft, it's namby-pamby, it just sounds wishy-washy, I will tell you this. In the business world, when I coach leaders and they finally reconnect head and heart, love and results go hand in hand. If you can influence people, have their best regard in mind, have them trust you, they will follow you. And that's when big things happen. And that's available to all of us. We don't have to have a position or a title to do that. We can be game changers, world changers, when we reconnect head and heart with a cause. I want to talk to you about the other element that we're seeing in the business world that also should be filtering out into the community, but it will not do it unless we do it intentionally. And that is this. We know in adult development there are several levels of thinking. And I'm going to take 3 of them. As we move through to adult development, very often a lot of us will stop at what we call a socialized mind. A socialized mind is one that is self-focused and is worried about what other people think and do they like me. So very often that's a person without a tether, and they might tell one person one thing but another person another thing, simply because they have a need to be loved, a need to be liked. And so you'll see a lot of disconnect there, a lack of rudder, if you will. Now, moving from the socialized mind to the self-authored mind is where most of us sit. And the self-authored mind is it has some elements that follow, such as these. The self-authored mind is intentional. We have purpose, we're driven, we have opinions, we know how to synthesize things, and we are going after goal. And those are some of the elements of a self-authored mind. Meaning, I have authored myself, I have my identity, I know what I'm about, it's enough for me to be respected rather than liked by everyone. And so, I know where I'm headed. But where we want to be, folks, is at the transformational mind. This is the last bastion, the highest one in development, and one that my hero Nelson Mandela exhibited. And let me share how this works. First of all, the socialized mind sees things in systems. No longer is it my goal, it's our goal. No longer is it my perspective, it's these perspectives. How can we bring these together? That's the world changer. When Nelson Mandela was imprisoned, his country was in a self-authored mindset. Nelson Mandela may have gone in with that, I don't know. But when he came out years later, he had done some very deep personal work, some introspection, contemplation, and in doing so, developed a transformational mind, so that when he came out and the country was on the verge of civil war, he said, wait a minute, that's one agenda. What about the larger agenda? I see a rainbow nation. And instead of one of retribution, it was one of hope. And that is what the country needed at that time. If we think about that tonight and where you sit, you reconnecting your head and your heart, I want you to think about reconnecting that in a way where you rise to the occasion and think in systems and perspectives and in collaboration. Because we are no longer in a place where one person leads. It is no longer a hierarchical model. It is everybody fan out, let's get together, let's roll, and let's do and make change. So I hope that some of this is beneficial for you tonight. We are teaching this in the business world. We need to teach it in the community, and I need you to be with me to do that. Thank you.
Now, I cannot stand still like these ladies. I am a pastor. I pastored a church, rather, for 11.5 years. I'm not here to proselytize nor convert, so please stay in your seats. But if you don't mind, I would like to be a little bit more free and walk around. Kim, I enjoyed you. Patti, thank you for the setup. Dr. DeLeone, you challenged me on something because you gave your books away, and I have books, so now I have to give my books away. So thank you for that. Miss Shirley Coates, such an honor to have been asked to be here. And I'm going to really just flow right off of what Patti was talking about transformational leadership. I was asked to talk about this specific subject. And the specific subject is leadership that transforms a city. How do we literally transform a city? And it's always good being the last speaker because you can just piggyback on what everybody else said and just sum it all up. And you're the last one heard and said, man, that guy was good. He was really, really good. So I'm going to be that guy. There's 4 areas of transforming a city. When I was pastoring our church for 11.5 years, I had a transition in my life to where I knew I was going to impact the world, and I had to step away from that to go travel. I've been to South Africa. I've seen where Nelson Mandela was after he was released from prison. I saw that. I've been to Soweto. I'm going back in July to do a leadership conference. And one thing that I noticed about cities, one thing that I noticed about nations, there's 4 areas if we're going to impact, and I love what Patti said, at the grassroots level. We already know now that government is not going to save us. Matter of fact, government has never saved us. It's always been grassroots movements that have shifted laws, shifted policy, and created greater academic success, economic success for the people. And just because I don't have a lot of time, I want to share the first one. The first one is, and I call these the 4 divine areas of human achievement and prosperity. The 4 divine areas. The reason I call them divine is because, and please again, I'm not here to offend, but when we look at how God created man in the beginning, he gave him a spirit, he gave him an economy, he educated him, and then he gave him someone to associate with. The 4 areas. If we are going to change a city, if we're going to change a nation, even if you're going to change yourself as an individual or an organization if you lead one, you must first focus on elevating the spirit of the individual, of the organization, or of the nation. We have to have something to become. That's what the spirit is the ability to become more. Every city, every nation, every organization, if you're a leader of an organization, your employees need to know that here is a place that they can become more. The moment they feel stuck, they're leaving. Have you ever got to a place where you just said, I'm not growing here anymore? And you leave. A lot of leaders lose great talent because they forget about, I have to lead them to become more. Every nation. What's the privilege of being American if I can't become more? What makes America the greatest nation? I know we have different opinions, but we're still the greatest nation in this world. It's because there is embedded in our community, in our nation, the opportunity to become more. We can have a vision to become greater. Think about yourself. Have I set, and I know we're all of certain different ages in here, but do I still have goals that I'm reaching for, that I'm longing to get to? What is my next? What's my next? What's next on my bucket list? I don't like to call it a bucket list because that last item, I don't want to die after I cross it off. I still want to live. The second area, if we're going to experience success, if we're going to empower a city, if we're going to empower individuals, if you're going to empower yourself, we're going to empower a nation, we must elevate our ability economically. The first one is spiritual. The second one is economics. It's the ability to do and have more. It's the ability. I cannot become more until I'm enabled to do more so that I can have more, and then I can become more. I can have greater impact, greater change. The third area is academics. The first is spiritual. The second is economics. The third is academics. If I want to become more, I need to have a way to have more and do more. But if I want to have more and do more, I need to know more. That's what education is about. I actually taught this message when I was still pastoring at my church, and we have every year this economic day and educational appreciation where we invite all of our political leaders of the city in Moreno Valley, that's where I pastored, all of our educational leaders out. And it was election year that year, 2016, 2 years ago. And those candidates that were running, I told them, I said, you better be lucky I'm not running, because I know more than you. I know these 4 areas. If I'm a mayor, if I'm a leader of a city, I'm going to first define what is the spirit of this city. Why do people want to live here? And what can they become by living here? Why would a business want to move their business here? Business owner, Mr. and Mrs. Corporate Leader, come to our city because we'll help your company, your organization become this. It's all about, as Patti said, the vision. And if I can cast the vision and then give them the economical means, give them the academic means, and the fourth is social. We must elevate our ability to socialize, or our ability to love more, to care more, to be more compassionate as people, to support one another. Now, I'm not old, but I always tell people I grew up old school. My parents were born in the 40s, 1940 and 1941. So I had this old school, and then there were East Coast, North Carolina, country folk. If you don't know what that means, that just means I have values. That's all that means. I have very strong values. And things are so much different. We used to know our neighbors. We used to go and borrow sugar. Anybody else remember those days? If I acted up down the street, oh, you can fill in the blank. You lived on my street, didn't you? Then everyone in the community had equal opportunity to whip my butt. Wait till I tell your daddy. Now we don't have that community. And the moment an individual, an organization, the moment a city or a nation loses its ability to become more, which is spirit, we begin to operate in dysfunction. The moment we can no longer say, this is who we are. We used to sing the song, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. Can we still sing it? And if not, what do we need to do to get back there? To be proud to be an American. We've become divisive people. And we need to get back to the ability to socialize, to love more. I don't get why you're doing it, but I respect you and I love you anyway. It is so important that if we're going, you know what, I can't help but, I sound like I'm preaching. I can't help it, it's just who I am. I've learned that. But if we can, even individually, look in yourself. If you're a leader of an organization, leader of a city, leader of a nation, or you aspire to be, you ask, what are we becoming? What do we need to get there? What do we need to know? And who do we need to have? Because we all need one another. Thank you for your time. That's unlike a preacher to actually be on time.
Please stand right here. Stand right here. Shirley asked me to ask a few questions based on what I heard tonight, so I was copiously taking notes. So my question to you tonight is, how can we as community members incorporate making a difference in our everyday lives? What can we go out and do right now that will help make us a part of the solution, not a part of the problem, and help us make a difference in other people's lives? So one thing we can do.
I would say pay attention to the gift that you are, that thing that you absolutely are passionate about. And then connect that passion to pain. Because there's someone who's praying for you to show up. It may not even make sense, but if you love doing it, that's a sign. That's a sign that there is a purpose for you to do it. So pay attention to what it is that you're passionate about.
Thank you. Patti, I've heard the term VUCA before. So in a VUCA world that we all find ourselves in, you said we must reconnect the head and the heart. And you discussed that developing a transformational mind, one of the ways we can do that, you mentioned, is through journaling. It's a start. So if we were to go home tonight, and I love this because I'm a believer in journaling and writing, can you give us a prompt that we can use tonight that will help us on our journey to that transformational mindset?
I will. And you'll want to be in a quiet place with a pen. Let your pen guide you. Don't think about what you're going to say. And the prompt is this: I used to be, but now. I used to be, but now.
Thank you. It's great. And I am going to go home and do that. Finally, Barry, this is something that has been on my mind and on my heart in my new role with the Irvine Foundation. I'm really thinking about the city of San Bernardino and what we can do to uplift that city and transform that city. That's my home. I have to acknowledge Cheryl Brown, my mother, one of the city leaders, represented the city in Sacramento. I'm a believer in the effectiveness of civic leadership. One of the things I keep thinking about as I talk about what's happening in San Bernardino and how we can transform it, it has to be grassroots, city, civic leadership, not government. So you mentioned 4 things that we need to look at: spirit of the city, economics, you say academics, I was thinking education, knowledge, and when you said social, I kept thinking community, the importance of the community. So with those things in mind, and that idea that civic leaders are going to be the ones that really transform the city, what's step 1? What's the first thing?
They can't be about themselves. If I can go before that, the first step would be who we're voting for. We have to be very cognizant of who we're voting for, even from a local level, not just voting for the person with the big sign in our city, which most people vote for. They don't know the candidates, they don't know what they represent, but yet taxes go up. Schools are not being built. More liquor stores are coming in our neighborhood. So we have to know who we're voting for, and whoever's running has to make it about the people.
And we have 2 weeks. We'll be voting not this Tuesday, following Tuesday is election day. So make sure if you haven't voted already that you vote. Thank you. So I want to open up the floor to maybe 2 questions to our speakers, if we have any. Can I?
You need me to stand? Or?
Oh, you know what? Stand, and you project, so you don't need a mic.
For any one of our 3 panelists, it doesn't matter. Because you guys deal with things on a community level, and she spoke about grassroots and things like that. You come into a community and you're already dealing with the culture of the places. How do you go about transforming that culture, and also how do you prepare yourself for the natural resistance of change that's going to come with that?
Who wants to?
I'll take it. I think complacency comes when people don't get that they matter. And we need to be with people in a way that they get that they matter, that they are a contribution, and their contribution is welcome and needed. And not only welcome and needed, it's critical. And be with the people in our community in the ways that honors them, and then recognizes them for the contributions that they have, and then put them in those positions to do that. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the elected or an official level, but people need to get that they matter.
Parky. Okay, can I do more than 2, Shirley? Okay, Parky.
To get the message out that we're talking about, social media is the answer, yet social media is the problem. How do you marry the 2?
Okay.
Everybody over 40 has to learn social media, period. That's where the attention is. That's where the eyes are. That's where we're picketing. That's where we're rallying a lot of the generation. And I think there's a big gap between generations, and there's a lot of books, a lot of talks that are written about it. But it's something that we need to know, because again, that's where the attention is now. Social media is the thing. We're not riding horse and buggies anymore, we're driving cars. So it's a big industrial shift. It's a big technological shift. As it was then, so it is now. It's the way of the world. And so we need to be social media savvy. Get your grandchild or your child. My 5-year-old knows and teaches me how to work my smartphone.
This question is for Patti, but feel free. Patti, you mentioned in being a transformational leader that skills sets particularly no longer as important as the individual. My question is, what sort of qualities does a transformational leader have? What sort of qualities do you think a leader that's following transformation, a good leader, skills, and impact?
The sorts of problems that the transformational leader encounters because of being transformational, or because those are today's challenges? Because of transformational leadership. So the transformational leader encounters the following challenges, and thank you, Thomas, for that. That's a great question. The transformational leader encounters the challenge of building influence when the issues are tough, because it's a more democratized way of doing. Empowering more people, you must be not only inspirational, but you must be extremely trustworthy. So when it comes to trust, a lot of us look at competence. Do they know their stuff? Can they do their stuff? Do they produce? Do they go? They forget the character part. There's competence and there's character, and the two go together. Can the person connect? Can I trust that person? Can I rely on that person? Is that person someone of integrity? And so the transformational leader must rise in trustworthiness to a level where we have not seen in leadership before, to inspire, to influence, to make impact. And that's the chief, that's key. But without that, none of us are going to do anything. So it's a great challenge to have.
Just adding on to Patti, one of my mentors, Patrick Lencioni, he wrote a book, The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. But he also has this book called The Ideal Team Player, and he gives 3 characteristics, which I believe go into transformational leadership. Is you have to be hungry. Hire people that are hungry, hire people that are people smart, and hire people that are humble. Just 3 things, and he builds his book about it. So just want to recommend to get that book, The Ideal Team Player.
One last question in the back. Any other?
My accent. Only one addressed the political leadership. At this juncture, we have the more minorities, the more women running. I'm with the Latino Voter Project, but it's very frustrating that the expected turnout is 30%. Where's the spirit? What leaders can do? I like what he do. Every time he talks about voting, but how can leaders keep creating that interest in civic participation in voting?
So I believe the question was, how do the leaders really keep the spirit going? Did I hear that correct? What's that? How do you get the civic participation, people connecting with the people? Okay, and so how to connect with those that are not voting, and again, it goes back to leading the spirit. And again, I just go back to Patti because you were saying some awesome things about what's the character of our city. I told my son, he's out of town with his band, 8th grade student, and I said, lead your character. And he said, what do you mean, Dad? I said, who are you? Who do you want people to know you as? I said, that's what you lead. People will connect to you by who you are, not what you do. And I think that's what we really need to focus on with leaders. If I ever get an opportunity to speak to more politicians and civic leaders, I want to ask them that question. Who are you becoming? Who are we going to become because of your leadership? And again, when we move out of the realm of who we are into what we do, we become dysfunctional, we become siloed, we become just infighting because we're all busy chasing whatever and running around like chickens with our heads cut off. So it's really identifying who we are as a people, cultures, and the people represent different cultures. So we have to understand that. And again, somebody said, I can't remember who just said it, that there are people who are scared and people who are complacent. I think that was one of the questioners. People who are complacent, and you have to reinvigorate that. You have to reignite that passion within those that you lead. It's not old school to go knocking on doors and say, hey, how can I help? How can I serve? So I think we have to sometimes get back to that.
Well, I want to thank our 3 wonderful speakers. Again, Patti, Kim, Barry, thank you very much. You gave us something to take back with us. Hopefully we will all work on becoming more transformational leaders here in our communities in the inland region. I'm going to have Shirley come up and say a few closing words.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks you to everyone. Did you learn something tonight? And that's what it's all about. All about coming together and sharing ideas and experiencing, not only just experiencing what you learn, but experiencing one another. Because one of our theme is leadership, cultural diversity, and technology. And I believe that we achieved those in all categories. So give yourself a hand. And I also hope that you had a chance to connect with someone other than the person that you came with. Because that's the other thing about this, because there are some extraordinary people here in this audience. And if you don't take the opportunity, you're missing out. I want to, before we close out this evening, I just want to thank our speakers. And when I say our speakers, I want to thank my friends, because they are my friend, and Barry just became my friend. We've been talking over the phone for some time, but all of these are my good. See, that's the other thing. See, I'm just so blessed to be surrounded by all of these incredible, extraordinary people. And at this time, I want to have this, oh, they left me. Speakers, come back up. This is your exercise. I look to each of you. I want to present this with your certificate of recognition for what you have done this evening, and also for your contribution in the community. So thank you so much. Thank you. And of course, in our Dr. Carolyn Murray, she's a longtime professor at UCR, and also we collaborated with the STEM program at UCR, where we have a campus for our Ignite Leadership Academy, and we also have a campus at the Central Middle School. But that's where we started at UCR, and I thank Dr. Murray for being a part of that program. Now you. And another one of our supporters who's been on our advisory, thank you, has been on our advisory board for so long, and that's where my second office is, and it is Michelle Skiljan, who does so much at the Inland Empire Women's Business Center. And this evening she may have passed out some flyers because they're going to have an event, and they will be, she will be at the door when you leave if you want to get a flyer to attend that event. So Michelle, thank you so much. And of course, Paulette.
I think she wanted me to probably take that.
Oh, yes. You can take it. You can keep it. And then we have some other special guests. I always have to say, thank you so much, Dr. Dillon, for the poem. It was in relationship to our daughters, and I thank you so much for being here. And if any of you, he's also connected with the Riverside Film Festival, so if you've had a chance, some great films are a part of that, so I thank you so much. There's some other people that I want to acknowledge who are going to be coming back for November, so put it on your calendar now. November 29th, we're going to have our final conversation series, but it's going to be an awards ceremony. So I'm inviting all of our speakers that have been a part of the program for this year, and also we're going to acknowledge community leaders for what they have done. One of those people specifically is, we have in our audience, I just call her the queen, but she is Honorable Cheryl Brown. So she has done, I'm just telling you, she's done so much in the community, she and her family. If I were to, we would be here to midnight. But I thank you so much for all that you've done, and she's going to be here in November. Kara Adams is an emerging leader. But she is writing a book and is also going to be a part of our program. Kara, say hi. I don't see Dr. Sarita Jackson. Oh, there she is back there, and she writes a book on the global economy. And I said I was going to give me the title again. Say it. Global Research and International Trading. So there's so much that we're going to experience. I hope I had to call out names. I hope I don't miss anyone. But I just thank all of you for being here. But I work together, we can transform a community. We can transform a school. We can transform a child. We can transform the world. And I thank you so much, all of you, for coming. Have a wonderful evening. Oh.